Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This week we'll be discussing my road trip of the summer and the highlights and the lowlights. Should be a good show. Live from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, you're watching The Trip. This is The Trip, episode 24 for the week of July 29th, 2015. The Trip is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect vacation, whether it be theme parks on the West Coast, East Coast, or on the seas. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Here I sit alone with my producer, Dustin West.
Hey, I'm here too.
Jenny Lynn wasn't feeling well today, so we're doing a little duo here, just the two of us. Should be fun, right?
Yeah.
So I'm Teresa Eccles, and like I said before, Dustin West, my producer, is sitting over there.
We're going to do this thing.
Hey, Dustin.
Hey.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
But, you don't feel good, you don't need to be here. So we sent Jenny Lynn home, and we'll be good to go, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Like I said, we are going to be discussing my road trip that I took this summer. And we did some videos, and Dustin took what Grace and I put together, and he made it into something, which was...
Yeah. It was I texted you last night. It was an interesting insight into the mind of Grace Eccles, this video that I went through.
I did not look at any of it. I just handed it over.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that the beginning of the trip up to Illinois, she did more shooting a video. I think on the trip back, she did nothing.
Yeah.
The glamour had worn off, and
well, we got a good little taste of what you saw.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So, we want to start with that, and then we'll start into the discussion.
Sure. Give me just a second
All
to
right.
Do it. So we shall go into that video now.
Thank you.
That was our video. What do you think, Teresa?
Of all the things that we did, that's what we came up with. That's I'm a little... We did so much more, but that gives you a little flavor of... Yeah. And the music you picked was interesting.
Well, it's, just picking that banjo.
Yeah, that's what the trip was about. All right, so we started our trip. Of course, we started in Orlando. and we went to Atlanta. That was our first night.
So who was in the car at the start?
Starting off, it was myself, my daughter's Grace, who's 20, Stella, who is 13, and Grace's friend Krista, who's also the same age. So it was the four of us, and it was pretty non-eventful heading up to Atlanta. That was kind of, we're just going to get there and get started. Once we got to Atlanta, we checked into a Holiday Inn Express, which was kind of our go-to hotel for the nights that we just were trying to get somewhere. And the next day we started out to Huntsville, Alabama, after we had picked up my sister Brenda and her husband Keith.
Is that where you saw the dolls?
No, you'll get to the dolls later. So we decided to go to Huntsville, and my sister said, we've got to travel. Her rule is you don't eat breakfast right away. You get miles behind you, and then you have breakfast.
Right.
So we're tooling through Alabama, beautiful upstate Alabama, which I had not seen before. And then we had an issue finding breakfast. There was an issue. And we ended up eating in Huntsville at a place called Another Broken Egg, which is a chain. At the time, we thought it was just a interesting place.
Yeah.
But it's a chain, and there's a couple of them here in Orlando.
Oh.
It was really good. It was a nice country feel to it.
Kind of a little diner deal?
It was kind of a diner. It was in a strip mall, but it was kind of a diner, kind of a chicken theme, because, you get that with the Another Broken Egg. And the food was excellent. So it got us off to a good start. And then while we were there, they told us about the shopping in downtown Huntsville and to go, not to miss that. So we tooled around downtown, found a lot. That was in the video, some of the shopping.
Yeah.
And I like it because it was Old South. It was because I'm always looking at architecture and buildings and trying to, figure out what that building. We found an interesting place there. It's not on the video. We were walking down the street, and there was a building across the way, and I have pictures of it. It looks like the door is abnormally small. And it was weird because it was an old building, so we had to cross the street and go over there. And yes, it was this tiny little door. It was just weird.
It's like Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, it was bizarre. So we got pictures of that. But Huntsville is where we decided. From there, we were going to go to Memphis and then on to Sikeston, Missouri, all on that first day. But we decided the day would have been incredibly long. And we had been to Memphis before, so we made the decision to throw out our ideas on what we were going to do and go to Jackson, Tennessee.
Okay.
Which was an amazing move on our part.
Jackson, Tennessee. I don't think I've heard of that.
Jackson is halfway between Memphis and Nashville, and it's a stopping off place for those country music, people going back and forth. And it's also, I think, the birthplace of Carl Perkins, blue suede shoes, Carl Perkins. So we did not know what was there, but we're going to Jackson because it seemed like it was a more straight path up to where we needed to be that night. So we get to Jackson, and once again, small southern town, Jackson, Tennessee. We're driving around trying to find a parking place because we saw some shops that we liked. And we come across the International Rockabilly Hall of Fame.
Oh, it's the one and only.
The one and only. And immediately, I knew I had to go there. And Grace was on board, Krista was on board, Stella didn't care one way or the other. I think Brenda and Keith were we don't want to do this. It was about middle of the afternoon at that point. They just wanted to power on. But the International Rockabilly Hall of Fame, the door was locked and you had to ring a bell, which I thought was kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
But the guy opens the door, and it was this little old hippie-looking dude, probably 10 years older, maybe early 60s. And when you got inside, there was an even older man in there. And it was bizarre. They sat us down, and he told us a little bit. He showed us the blue suede shoes that Carl Perkins had. These people actually knew Carl Perkins.
Wow.
And they actually knew, I think the older guy had met Elvis. And it was just very interesting.
Well, I mean,
so
I guess if you're in that scene and you're from that area,
yes. And I had not really rockabilly to me was the Stray Cats in the 80s, which is not original rockabilly, obviously.
Yeah.
But there was lots of Elvis memorabilia. Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, Brenda Lee. Do you know the song Johnny Cash sings, "Going to Jackson"?
Yeah.
Is
that about this?
We got married in a fever, hotter than a pepper sprout or something like that. Yes, supposedly this is what it was. Yes, I love that song. But I don't know, it was just really interesting. And it was when we got all done, he said it was donation only.
Yeah.
But they wanted $10 a piece, and the girls all bought. They had T-shirts, and the girls all bought T-shirts. And
Cool. So so they're making their money.
they're making their little money.
I was interested in that when I saw the video, and now that we're talking about it, that's along, all the stops that you went on your road trip. That would have been one of the more interesting ones.
It was interesting, and August 7th and 8th, they're having the International Rockabilly Musical Festival.
Oh, cool!
Isn't that interesting?
That is cool.
People are coming from all over the world to this. They have an outside stage, and
I'll tell you that part of the country and that part of Tennessee, there's some good musicians in that area, and they have a real history there. But what I was going to say is, if you saw the video, and you can check it out on the show notes page when I put up the episode, Grace got to play the drums there.
She did, and it was a special set
to
of
have done
drums
that.
that was donated by some rockabilly person. I don't remember who it was, but they asked for one of us to go up there, and Grace was the only one
Even willing
to get. They asked Stella, and Stella's like, she gave him that look. That's the same look she always has, but so
It's the happy look.
It's the happy look. It's the sad look. It's just her resting face. It's the face she always has. But no, Grace got up there, and the guy told her, gave her some basic instructions, and it was fun. It was a nice little touch. Little touch to it all. And then we went into another room, and they showed us, they had a room of nothing but Elvis. And it was like, it wasn't the normal things. It was things people had sent them, personal things of theirs, like clippings and magazines and records.
Things about Elvis, or things that Elvis owned, or family members of
things
Elvis?
About Elvis, mainly.
Okay.
Or things, it was just random weird things.
So a little shrine to Elvis.
Yes. It was just bizarre. And they had Jerry Lee Lewis. They gave us a story of him and his 13-year-old cousin and that whole, whole thing. And they gave us the Beatles. Paul McCartney was into rockabilly. Mm-hmm. And they had some stuff where him and Carl Perkins had gotten together. It was just very interesting. The whole thing lasted maybe 2 hours, but well worth it. I would do it again.
Yeah.
It was just interesting. And
it's definitely a stop. If you're interested in that kind of thing, it's a clear attraction. It's not like, largest frying pan on the side of the road.
Right.
It's something
this
that's a
is
little
an
more
attraction.
structured.
It was well worth it. I was so happy that we did this.
Yeah.
It just made the day for me. And I think everybody else too. I think my brother-in-law even enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Even though the beginning, when the guy was going a little too much into detailed stories about people that we didn't know.
Yeah.
And it was a little, okay, dude, pick up and he told us in the beginning, if you want me to skip something or tell me to shut up, I will. So it was very interesting. All right, from there, we went, headed on north, same day, and our destination was Sikeston, Missouri, and that was for the evening. Our goal for that day was to get to Lambert's. Have you ever eaten at Lambert's?
Lambert's. Why does that sound familiar?
There's 3 of them. There's one in Sikeston, Missouri, the Ozarks, and in Foley, Alabama.
Okay.
It's the home of the throwed roll.
What do those words mean?
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
It's this huge family-owned restaurant. It's been there for years, and they make the most amazing rolls, hot, and they come out and they throw them at you.
Throwed. I thought you said throat.
No, throwed.
Throat rolls.
No, they throw them at you.
Into your throat.
Into your hands or your head or wherever. If you don't get your hand up, you're going to get hit in the head. And it's a huge restaurant, and there's usually a line waiting to get in. And it has anything you could want. Roast beef, steak, meatloaf, fried chicken, whatever. You pick your main meal. And then they have these things called pass-arounds. And it's just these employees walking around with these giant tubs of okra or macaroni and tomatoes, which I thought was a weird combination, or just walking around and you lay out a little paper towel on your and they'd put it on the paper towel.
No plate?
No plate. It was bizarre. And then
how perfectly civilized.
It was very civil. Well, there's bread all over the floor because they're throwing bread at everybody. And they come out and I don't know if they scream out hot rolls or you're just watching for them.
I feel like I've heard about that, like on the Travel Channel, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, it has been on the Travel Channel. And everybody just sticks their hand up and they throw it to you.
Aladdin would not be happy. Look at all that bread going
to
waste.
I know. All that bread. And it's hot bread. The minute it hits your hand, it just kind of melts into your hand. But Stella did not raise her hand once. Grace was a glutton. She was just like, hand up, hand up. She's getting it to go. I'm like, you can't keep gathering all this bread. And they don't let you share plates, so you have to, everybody has to have their own entree. Mm-hmm. Or you can just get the sides.
Do they give you a plate for your entree?
They do. And the quantities are huge. I got chicken livers there. And you get to pick whatever side you want in addition to the pass-arounds. And I think we walked out of there, it was about $120 for the, let's see, what was it, 6 of us?
120?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And the drinks they bring you, they're bottomless drinks, and they're in like gallon, they're huge. Oh. They're absolutely huge. So it was fun. It was fun. We've been there before, but everybody we take with us, we got to go have some. And I did not get hit in the head this time with any bread. Last time, I got hit in the side of the head with a piece of bread. So that was nice.
No bread concussions.
No bread concussions on this one. So we stayed at a Holiday Inn right there in Sykeston that night, which is right below St. Louis. Our next day, that is basically about 8 hours from the destination of Biggsville, but we had planned into that next day the stop in Hannibal, which is the home of Mark Twain.
Okay. Not the home of Hannibal.
Not the home of Hannibal Lecter, no. It's the home of Tom Sawyer and that whole story, the whole,
on the Mississippi River?
Growing up on the Mississippi, yeah. So, and I knew I wanted to do the caves. I had not been through the Mark Twain caves, where him and Becky Thatcher got lost.
So that's kind of what Tom Sawyer Island, with the caves on Tom Sawyer Island, that's what that would be based on. Wow.
Yeah. And I had done the caves when I was maybe 2 and did not remember it. I don't remember. I mean, I was told I had gone. But
how far away from that is where you grew up?
About 4 hours.
Okay.
So it's not bad. It would be a day trip for our family, and that would have been like a weekend vacation or something that we had gone and done this. But the caves, it was a little more touristy than I remember it.
Okay.
Obviously, you go in, and I think it was $20 to go into the cave, or $35. There's another cave nearby called Cameron Caves, which is bigger and supposed to be more majestic, and you can do both caves. They were both owned by the same family.
Okay, so this isn't part of like a national landmark or anything like that?
Well, I think it is. It's not a national park. It's privately owned.
Okay.
And I think, if I remember correctly, the caves were discovered, and then the locals would take people in for tours for a couple of dollars here and there, and then at some point in the 20th century, it became a tourist attraction. Right. So that was cool. I mean, it was the normal. Have you been in caves before?
I have.
Okay. So it was the normal. You go in and they tell you all these different stories and different areas. And then, of course, they're going to turn the lights out on you at some point to show you how incredibly dark it is. Mm-hmm. And then they turn the lights back on to show you this is what it would be like if you just had a candle and you were Becky Thatcher lost in the cave, or Injun Joe. He went in there and they showed us where he would have hidden if the story was real. Yeah. So it was interesting. The best thing I got out of it was nice and cool inside, and there was no heat, so it was nice. So from there we went downtown Hannibal, and we had lunch at a place called the Brick Oven, which I would recommend to anybody. It's like a northern Italian Tuscany pizza place, which does not fit into the River City But what I liked about it was in a very old. All the buildings in Hannibal are old.
It seemed like that
brick.
From the video.
Yeah, and they have all the Mark Twain museums and everything.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was up with the creepy Mark Twains in people's windows? Like there were like statues and like maquettes of like Mark Twain ghosts inside windows and stuff.
I don't know. They were everywhere though, and everybody. I guess because they're so proud of Mark Twain.
They put cardboard cutouts of them and stuff.
It was bizarre. But the main, after we had lunch, the main place that I loved, that is where most of your video came from, was Aunt Polly's Treasures. Uh-huh. And that's where all the dolls were. It was run by this funky couple, and it was all their collection. But it was dolls, it was clothing, it was any kind of middle century tchotchke retro. They had part of it was set off like a diner from the 50s. I mean, it was.
They come alive at night.
I know they do. I mean, they had there were dolls at every turn, and they were set up in such a bizarre way that it was kind of creepy. My sister stayed in there about 2 minutes and left.
Did the owners, were they like, they're my babies?
No, they were just like, it's our lifelong collection. And then she said, there's upstairs too, and it was this rickety flight of stairs going up to the second floor, and it was just like, it was so macabre. It was just so many dolls and full-size mannequins of people. And
yeah, see, now I do not particularly care for like wax museums and wax figures and stuff like that. Those legitimately creep me out.
Yeah.
Dolls not so much. These particular dolls that I saw in the video were disturbing.
Yeah.
They were sad.
She picked the most disturbing ones.
Yeah.
There was one room of nothing but Asian babies.
Asian
It was like,
babies?
see, they had it all set up in different, but the furniture was Asian themed, everything, and it was beautiful antiques. And then they had one, it was like 1950s children. I don't know, it was just bizarre, but a
kooky enough place in terms of the other stuff that they have. It's all over the place.
Yes, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's not just the dolls.
No, the dolls were a small part of it. Grace just kind of fixated on
Yes,
the dolls. She was bizarre.
And as did I.
But I bought a beautiful green depression glass ashtray in there. It was absolutely beautiful. And I bought a little Mark Twain doll, which I soaked in catnip, and Klaus has it now. It's his own little Mark Twain. So from there, it was only another 4 hours to Mom and Dad's in Biggsville. So
from there, you blessed yourself
yes.
and you left.
We did stop. This is bizarre. About hour and a half from Hannibal, Leah Zanola lives.
Oh yeah.
Was she editor?
I know she lives in Illinois.
Yeah. So, and that night, which was I think July 2nd, she was having an ice cream social at her church. And it just happened to be like 10 miles from the path we were taking. I said, well, how can you not go there, right? Right?
Yeah.
So we went and had, and her and her husband and her family were there. They had live music. It was kind of weird pulling into this ice cream social.
Yeah.
And they had Maid-Rites. You know what Maid-Rites are?
No.
Loose meat sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Like a sloppy Joe kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Homemade desserts and all these amazing homemade ice creams, which we bought extra and packed them in the cooler and took on with us.
Can you explain the significance of the phrase "made right"?
Made right? It's a name brand.
Oh, okay. It's not like a local.
It's made correctly.
I don't even know what the word is.
Made Right is a brand because there's diners up there that serve Made Rights, and it's not particularly like a sloppy Joe, but it's a loose meat sandwich with seasoning in it. It's really good on a little bun. But they call them Made Rights.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I grew up with Made Rights.
Made Rights.
Anyway, so then we went on to Biggsville and stayed 6 days at the creepy hotel in Biggsville, which I'm not going to elaborate on. It was just time with family, and it was the best time of the whole trip, actually. But, there were no destinations from there.
Yeah.
It was just Mom's house and the hotel and lots of home cooking, so that was good. When we left Biggsville, we had decided we were going to go east across Indiana.
Okay.
Across the whole state of Illinois, because my family lives on the western side of Illinois.
Sure.
So across the whole state of Illinois, across the whole state of Indiana, through Indianapolis, and then kind of veer down into Cincinnati.
Awesome.
I had never been to Cincinnati before. And you and Craig and everybody was saying, you got to go, Skyline Chili, right? All right. So we get into Cincinnati, and we were going to meet some friends there after we'd eaten our chili. But we decided, Skyline was everywhere. I didn't realize it was like a chain.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like 1 or 2 locations. We probably passed 6 or 7 of them to get to the one that I wanted, which was downtown Cincinnati.
Okay.
We pull into downtown Cincinnati, and it was busy. It was a Tuesday, very busy day, lots of people. And I was driving the van. My sister was behind me. My brother-in-law, I have to set the scene for you. My brother-in-law was sitting beside me, and the girls were all in the back in various places. So once we got on this one, we were like, oh my God, they got a Tiffany's, they've got a Macy's, you know, we're going off all the shopping. And I see this guy running past the van, like at top speed. He wasn't jogging, he was running. And I'm going, whoa. And all he had on was a pair of shorts and shoes. So I'm going, what's the deal, right? Because he was running through the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And we get up to this intersection where we had to make a choice of right or left. But before we got there, a police car pulled up beside us and pulled right in front of the van. And I realized there were 2 or 3 other police cars right there too. And the car that pulled up in front of us gets out and pulls out his gun. It was a taser, and I knew that right off. I could tell it was a taser. And my sister is screaming at the top of her lungs, get down, get down, get down. And I'm going, what? He's going to tase the van, right? And she was screaming, get down, get down, get down. And I'm going, you know, it was freaky. So the guy, obviously the cops had cut him off, and he run past the van again. And they're chasing him for whatever reason, we don't know. But
jogging-related crimes.
Jogging-related crimes. So that was our excitement when we pulled into town. Well, and then we turned around the corner, and my sister went from get down, get down, get down, get down to, oh, look, there's Skyline. So it was just bizarre. So we pull in. We had to go find a parking spot, and we pull in, and we go in, and we told them it was our first time, and they gave us each this little first time bag with different things. I don't know, a bib. It was just weird. And I decided I had to go all out and get the chili on the spaghetti.
Yes.
With the cheese.
Yes. And
have you had this, right?
Yes.
Do you like this?
I love it. I think it adds so much to the chili. It's like chili flavored spaghetti.
But so we're sitting there, and my sister had the spaghetti, or she went with the baked potato with the chili on it and the cheese. Mm-hmm. The girls had salads. Stella had or as Grace called them, salads. Stella had the vegetarian version of the chili, and Keith had the same thing I had. So we get it, and I'm like, and the cheese covers everything. Yeah. Right? Massive amounts of cheese. So we're sitting there, and I see my sister eating hers, and I'm just praying she's not watching this show. Okay. She smells her food before she eats it because she has allergies that could affect her. You know, like if celery's in it, but she's going down. Get out the EpiPen. You know, right. Stab her in the neck. Okay, so, and I'm eating it, and she says, and I can see her going, like she was trying to figure it out. And she said, "There's something in here," and I said, "Yes, there is." And she says, "I can't place it." I said, "It's cinnamon," and she said, "It is." Now, why you would put cinnamon in chili? It's in there.
Yeah, it adds that little
something.
Yeah, I like it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, while I was sitting,
before we go on, can I just a little personal story for me?
Okay.
When I was a kid, my mom thought she would. One time, she thought she would spice up the dinner, you know, so she got some like chili powder that she was going to put in the spaghetti.
Okay.
Well, she got the little jars of spices mixed up, and she put a whole ton of cinnamon into regular spaghetti, which I feel like it fits better in chili than it does spaghetti sauce. And so we had cinnamon spaghetti.
Wow.
Actually turned out pretty
good. It wasn't
too
bad, huh? No. I've heard of cinnamon chicken, but I've never had cinnamon. But I don't know. Skyline, it's been there since 1941. It seems to be a local institution.
Yeah.
Everybody there, the place was packed. And the most humorous thing about the story to me was while I was sitting there, I took a little picture of this guy on the wall, and it was like the Skyline Chili person mascot. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Wearing a Cincinnati Reds baseball uniform.
Yeah.
And I texted it to Craig. It was a Tuesday because I think you guys were recording a show. And he immediately calls me, bring me cheese, bring me cheese. I'm like, what are you talking about? Bring me cheese. So I got like 4 packs of cheese, and it was like gold coming back in the cooler.
Yeah.
And it made it back.
I think I remember him saying that. I remember that phone call. Yeah.
It was, okay, my sister was like, it's cheese. Was there something special about it? I don't know. But anyway, we were at Chili back.
Special cheese.
Special cheese. After we left Skyline Chili, which I'll probably not go back to, it was okay. But I think if I go back to Cincinnati, I would do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique because it's on the spaghetti noodles. And
it's unique. Yeah. I'll give him that. We also were told we needed to try Grater's ice cream. Mm-hmm. And this is where we met up with our friends, Tim and Leslie and their kids, over in the Hyde Park Square area of Cincinnati, which was a beautiful little old neighborhood.
Cool.
It was really cool. And we had ice cream, which was good. I guess it's special too.
It's special ice cream.
Special ice cream. Been there since 1868 or something.
Yeah.
So, but it was nice because I like going to places that I can't go to everywhere.
Right.
You know, I want to see different things. So Cincinnati brought me chili with cinnamon. It brought me ice cream, and it brought me street crime. Which,
you know.
but they had rioted in the streets the 4th of July weekend before.
Oh, really?
Because there was the baseball thing going on there, and something was going on, a little something. And
Yeah. Well, they take their baseball seriously.
They do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, from there, same day, we headed south to Kentucky because our reservation that night was at the Shaker Village of Pleasant Hill. And this is an actual old Shaker community in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. And it's like 3,000 acres. The community's still there. Do you know anything about Shakers?
No. Can you please give a brief explanation?
I will give you a brief. Okay, Shakers. It's the United Society of Believers in Christ's Second Appearing. It's a religious sect. I believe it started in England in the 18th century. They came over to the United States and set up these little communities. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about the Shakers, I think, is women and men were treated equally. Mm-hmm. There were women leaders as well as men leaders, and they stayed in separate quarters. Mm-hmm. If you came into the Shaker community and became part of it, the men went one way and the women went another way. Never again to meet.
Even if you get married?
No, there was no.
Oh, there's no marriage.
There was nothing.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is why the Shaker community died out, because the only way to get new Shakers would be to recruit them. Okay. Because there was no making new Shakers.
No fraternizing.
No fraternizing. But you know, while I'm walking around there and I'm thinking, behind some of these barns, right, Dustin? I know you don't want to go there, but
you're lobbing me a real big softball there, and I am not swinging.
I'm sorry. There had to be, I don't know, but anyway, but they were celibate, communal lifestyle. They were pacifists, model of equality of sexes, and the communities just all died out. There's one remaining in the United States.
One community remaining.
In Maine, and I think it has 4 Shakers in it. In 2010, it had 4 Shakers left.
So what's the significance of going through this particular
this particular community, when the last Shaker died, and I think it was in the 1920s, mm-hmm. It became a regular community for a while, and then I believe it, I don't know if the state bought it or what, but it's all been restored, and it is actually like the Shakers when they lived there.
So what's the attraction of going there now?
It's like a little bit of history. The way they lived. There's there's animals there, and it's actually an inn where you can stay. Yeah. So you can stay in any of the I don't know how many buildings there were. I want to say 34 original Shaker buildings.
Wow.
Still standing in their original spots. And they are amazing. They're put together like nothing is put together today.
Now, they don't have like people dressed up there or
well,
anything
there's
like
a few people explaining things.
It's not. My thought goes to like something like Colonial Williamsburg, where they have people dressed up in old garb. Like
I've never been there, but there were a few people in the buildings explaining and giving tours and things like that. So you could stay in different aspects of this. They had guest rooms in the upstairs of some buildings or the downstairs, mm-hmm. And they were running $200 a night for the night that we were there. We were going to stay one night, between $200 and $300 a night for each of us. But when I called to make the reservation, the woman said maybe a better option for you was there is a house on the back of the property, which was the bricklayer's house, or it was the tannery, and that's where the guy that tanned all the leather lived or whatever. Mm-hmm. You can rent the whole house for $300.
And you did that.
And that's what we did. And it was downstairs, and this house was built in the 1820s. I mean, it's incredibly old. Downstairs had a dining area, a little kitchenette that they had kind of fabricated, so it had a microwave and basic hotel amenities.
HDTV?
Well, it had cable for 3 channels, and then it had just a general sitting room, and then this precarious staircase leading up to the upstairs, which upon closer, my sister and I examined it very closely, because there were 2 guest rooms up there. One of them was kind of in the center, and it had a window looking out into the hallway, which led to the other room. Because I think at one point the whole upstairs was one big room, and they're trying to get more out of it. Yeah. So because her and her husband stayed in that room, and the girls and I stayed in the other room, which was more original. And our bathroom door was like carved by some man with rude tools, because it had holes in it, and it was just real quaint. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad it even had a bathroom, but it was nice. But we went out at night, and we're out there in the middle of nowhere with a stone fence around the house, total silence.
Nice.
There was a little pond right there, and Grace investigated a little well house that went into the side of a hill, like a spring was coming up out of it. It looked like someplace she would keep the bodies. It was, it was like a little door coming in the hill, and but it was a nice, quaint evening. I mean, it was nice, quiet. We opted not to have the meal at the main part of the hotel. It was very expensive, and they had only 5 or 6 choices, and it very expensive. It was $30 to $40 a person, which was a little pricey for this trip for us. So we drove into town and got, KFC and Subway, and brought it back to the house and made the children sit around this shaker table and eat fast food.
There you go.
It was kind of sad. Next morning, we did eat the breakfast buffet. It was really good. The food was good. People were dressed in their little shaker outfits, so we got a little taste of that. And then we toured the village and walked around, and we stayed there till about right after lunch, 1 o'clock. A lot to see, a lot to do, Got the history of the Shakers, which is nice and interesting. So, anyway, this is also on this day, I had to get Brenda and Keith back to their house, back home. So we started heading south again, because they live just north of Atlanta. So we were heading towards, we had to go through Tennessee.
Okay.
And we were going through a part of Tennessee where there was nothing but just
road,
hills, small mountains. There wasn't even rest stops. There was nothing.
Wow.
And tempers got a little tight. People were tired of sitting in the van looking at. I mean, it was beautiful, but you can only take so much of beautiful before, you kind of want to get out of the van and get away from these people. I will say, because we had some reluctant people, Keith, my brother-in-law, who originally we were not going to let him drive. And we decided 8 hours into it, he was going to drive.
Let him drive.
Let him drive.
Keep him happy.
Kept him happy, and it let us talk and, or whatever, where we didn't have to work. We just tell him where to go, and he was good. So, anyway, after we left the Shaker Village, we worked our way down to Atlanta.
That must have been a long day.
It was a very long day. We got into, Brenda lives in Houston, which is
not Houston.
It's Houston. Which, anyway, so we dropped her off. Houston. Which used to be owned by some celebrity. I can't remember who it was. Who used to be married to Alec Baldwin. It was his ex-wife. Anyway, so anyway, we dropped her off and threw all their crap out of the van. Mm-hmm. And I had a reservation at the Holiday Inn Express, which was like 4 miles from their house.
The Holiday Inn Houston?
Houston, yeah. Which is right across from... Anyway, so I'm not going to say where it was. It's in Houston. So it was pushing 10 o'clock by the time we checked into the hotel.
Yeah.
And the girls, the 2 older girls, Stella, I don't include her when I say the girls,
right,
wanted to go swimming. Well, the pool was fenced in, locked up, and no entry. But I had been with Grace before where she has found entry into these pools. So the no-access pool, they climbed the fence, and I could see them from the window, just to cool off, Mm-hmm. And so they got a little swim out of it. And then next morning, the fun began. I know this is boring you to death.
No, I'm
okay.
No, I'm good.
So, okay, we decided we weren't going to go back down to Atlanta and fight traffic.
Okay.
My brother-in-law suggested that we go over to Athens and then take the Antebellum Trail down towards Macon, because we were going to go to Savannah.
That's cool.
And be home that night. So we had a lot packed into that day. So we ended up, and this was the best. It was just, and I told the girls, this day, there'll be no planned dining. If we want junk food for a meal, we're doing it. Aunt Brenda's not here to stop us or to fuss, right? So we went through, what towns did we go through? We went through.
Did you go through Athens and Savannah?
Well, Savannah was we'll get to that. Okay. Athens we bypassed.
Okay.
We ended up going to, where'd we go? Eatonton, Watkinsville, I think. There is, if you look it up, there's an Antebellum Trail. And what it is all of these old homes were not destroyed during the Civil War.
Okay.
So they're intact. And it's the architecture is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of drove around and looked at these beautiful homes in these little towns heading towards Macon. And we stopped Milledgeville. And this is where, okay, so Grace is in the back seat Googling she's looking for something haunted.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, Milledgeville, we're going to Milledgeville. There is an abandoned state mental hospital.
Okay.
It's bizarre.
Filled with dolls.
Right? She needs help. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm on this because this sounds like it's going to be some beautiful architecture. So we're driving around and we find it. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you saw the video I put on Facebook. It was absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm.
This abandoned mental hospital, state hospital.
Yeah.
And we didn't even see it all. And you can't go in.
You can't go in. They don't have any tours or anything like that?
No, it's abandoned. There's signs saying do not enter because it's dangerous. The whole top of the one building is missing, and the sun's coming in and trees are growing out of it.
Oh, so it's like zombie apocalypse stuff.
Yes, it's truly abandoned. But the grass is cut, so they know people are, and there's a little parking lot, but they just don't want you to go near it. But, oh yeah, the girls were, closer than I was, but it was absolutely beautiful. And to know, and you could look in the windows, the little mini multi-paned windows, and see, and just imagine what happened in there.
And see, if people are going on road trips, obviously they're probably not going to hit every single little stop that you're talking about here because people go in all different directions.
Right.
But the fact that she was able to just like Google while you were on the road to find something interesting, and if you have the flexibility and you have the time to do something that, do it. It might be worth it.
Because this stuff is all over America. You know it is.
Yeah.
It's not just here. And that's the beauty of this part of the trip was, like you said, she just Googled it and she's like, okay, we're going here. Mm-hmm. And then she just put the GPS and it led me right to it.
Wow.
And we were just all getting out of the car like giddy children on Halloween. It was, which I think we couldn't have done with my sister in the car.
Yeah.
And her husband, they would have been standing, the sign says don't. Okay, well, I'm going up to this building and looking at it. So we did that. From there, I think we stopped and had lunch at Cracker Barrel or, I don't know, just some quick meal.
Yeah.
And we headed on to Savannah, where Grace found the most haunted place in Savannah. And I'm going to read you what this place, it was a brewery. You like that?
Okay, I appreciate it.
You on board
far.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like that it's abandoned. I'd prefer that it.
Oh, it's not abandoned.
Oh, okay. It's just haunted.
Okay, so it is called Moon River Brewery, and it's downtown Savannah. Savannah's beautiful in itself. Mm-hmm. The squares. I mean, we drove around looking at all that. We did some shopping, and this is where I had my one and only alcoholic beverage on the trip.
Wow.
I had a beer called Yoga Pants. It was good. But anyway, so this is located in one of Savannah's oldest and most haunted buildings. The Moon River Brewery started pouring pints in 1999, originally built in 1821.
Wow.
It was a hotel. But during the spring of 1832, lots of violence happened. But the paranormal activity is what I think is exciting. Since opening, the staff and customers of Moon River Brewery have encountered many unexplained and sometimes violent occurrences. Accounts include bottles being thrown by unseen forces, people being touched, pushed, and slapped by invisible spirits.
Slapped. Happy slapped by a spirit.
One prominent ghost figure is Toby, who lurks in the bar's billiard room where he has been known to push patrons and staff. A glowing white apparition has reportedly been seen on the restaurant's upper floors and is believed to be the spirit of a hotel worker who died there in the late 1800s. In 1990s, during an attempt to renovate the building's third floor, the foreman's wife was violently pushed down the staircase. Locals say he gave his resignation on the spot, and to this day the upper floor remains in decay. They never went back to the third floor. Ooh. So the girls, so we go in, get my beer, we get some appetizers, the girls are drinking lemonade, and we're all, okay, no one's saying anything about, we got to ask. So we asked the waitress. She said, you can go in the basement if you want. She can't go upstairs. So the girls, I'm sitting there, drinking my beer, slow as I can because I'm a slow drinker. And the girls went down and checked it all out and took pictures and stuff. Nothing happened. Nobody was slapped or pushed.
Yeah.
But it was just the thought that it's an old building. And it's eerie, and
that's cool.
It was cool.
And what a cool thing for that brewery to have that history.
Yes.
Other than the fact that people are getting slapped by ghosts.
But I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool.
That's neat.
It was a nice little stop. So from Savannah, we headed back to Orlando. We came through Jacksonville, stopped for junk, munchies, basic
I-95.
stuff. Yeah. Before we left Georgia, we did stop at a roadside stand and got Vidalia onions and Georgia peaches and whatever. I got some peach wine and some other things that supposedly you can't get here that every tourist stops and gets. But it was fun. It was a nice little, well worth it, I think.
Yeah.
I think if my husband had gone, it would not have been the same trip.
Okay.
It would have been a shorter trip. And it would have been, I love him to death, but it wouldn't have been as much
Just
fun.
not up for as many stops.
No. He's just not a road trip guy,
Yeah.
and we know that. So, but it was worth it. It was fun, and I'm glad we went. And all the different things we saw along the way were definitely worth it. Memories. Yeah. So I guess with that,
cool.
I'm done. Next week, what are we talking about next week? Oh, you know what we're doing next week, Dustin?
Which one?
Come on.
I know.
Monster trucks. We are going to take a monster truck ride through the orange groves in Florida.
And I'm very happy about this.
I was trying to talk Pete into going. I think it'll be fun.
It sounds fun. It's
just been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'm not an outdoor girl.
Yeah.
So this is stepping out of my box too.
Yeah.
But I think it's classic Florida.
Okay.
And we need to find out what's going on.
All right.
So with that, trip out.